So, as we said, Nanda is not just a protocol, it's not just a registry, or it's not just sort of an instantiation of a server or a tool. Nanda is almost a quilt of everything that's necessary to enable this Internet of Agents tomorrow. And today we'll talk to you about four key components that will demo to you to some extent, and that will form the bedrock and foundation of Nanda. Uh, First is a Nanda host. You can think of it as your cloud desktop uh, or your ChatGPT, whatever you may think. But the Nanda host is deeply integrated within the Nanda protocol and with the Nanda registry to be able to provide services such as discovery, reputation, transactions, and everything moving forward. The second is the Nanda registry, which will be the which will be the avenue for discoverability in this Internet of Agents. All those amazing MCP servers, Nanda servers, tools, apps that you guys want to expose to this Internet of Agents will be via this Nanda registry. The host, our host, and any host, remember all of this is open source, so any host will be able to interact with the Nanda registry, uh, sort of connect to a bunch of servers out there, and we envision a lot of services being built on top of the stuff that will be housed within the Nanda registry, such as transactions, discovery, all that cool stuff. Third is the registered servers and services within this Nanda ecosystem. Uh, so important thing to note, we've used we imagine that a lot of you are familiar with MCP terminology because you've been part of our hackathon, and I'm sure you've heard about MCP before. So we've used terminology here which is analogous to MCP, namely host and servers. But we are moving towards this Internet of Agents, where similar to web pages almost, and similar to this decentralized landscape, uh, we envision every node, as we call it, Nanda nodes, to behave both as servers and clients, and everyone to be registered on our Nanda registry as this Internet of Agents sort of broadens and builds forward. But as a starting point today, we'll discuss with you how you can how we support registering your custom MCP servers and Nanda servers that can be hosted remotely anywhere in the world with our registry and make it discoverable to our host starting now, but all the hosts that exist out there. And finally is the Nanda protocol that ties in all of these aspects together, enables the interaction of all of these aspects, and forms sort of the bedrock of this Internet of Agents. So with that being said, let's start diving into each of these important components of Nanda. Uh, First is the protocol specification. Uh, by the way, we also have a web page that has a bunch of resources. So I don't know if Joyce or anyone else from our group is in the chat. Maybe you can share the link to the web page with folks so that they can keep track of the documents that we're talking about. Uh, Actually, even I can share that link. Uh, Actually, I don't know. Abhishek, if you can do it, that'd be great. Uh, but let's start with the protocol specification for Nanda. So as I mentioned, we are not just doing agent to agent or agent to tool communication, but a lot more. And to do that, we have to build a whole new protocol. We of course take inspiration from MCP and all the amazing stuff that MCP does, but we build on top of that to add sort of our certification components. So here are some of the things that we've added to the Nanda protocol, and we'll talk about it more in detail. So there are 5 cool aspects that distinguish the Nanda protocol from what MCP provides today. The first is certification. So as we have this infrastructure of registries and clients, uh, Nanda will allow the Nanda protocol will allow certification of nodes and MCP or Nanda servers via a registry so that there is a notion of identity. The second is this very amazing foundational idea of coupons that we are building on top of. The idea is coupons are carriers of identity information that are enforced by certificates and that are transmitted as agents interact with between each other. And so once, let's say, an agent-to-agent interaction takes place and a coupon is transferred as a result of that interaction, uh, this coupon transmits a certificate. The recipient of this coupon can verify the certificate against the registry. And once verified, a lot of cool things can be enabled just by this idea of coupons, including reputation, transaction, discovery, and a lot more things. The third is registration. So as I mentioned, the registry, the protocol, and our software tools are very deeply integrated. So we as part of our SDK, we are integrating the ability to register your MCP servers, Nanda servers, all cool stuff, Nanda nodes, with our registry or any registry that you choose via a simple SDK command without having to deal with all the complicated API specs and all that cool stuff with it. Finally, the protocol also allows for SDK specific schemes to interact with the registry, such as find find services, find servers, clients, uh, tap into stuff such as reputation and so on and so forth. And finally, we truly envision this to be an open source avenue. And as you mentioned, Nanda is a hub, a quilt of all the ideas that will enable the Internet of Agents as we move forward. So while we provide the protocol, spec, and instantiations, we do not enforce anyone to use uh, one sort of instantiation versus the other. So our protocol from ground up is built to be sort of user-centric. You can choose which registries you use to interact with, to certify from. And we hope folks adopt this protocol and build their own registries that are interfacing with this Nanda ecosystem. The second part of Nanda is a registry. So we'll obviously talk to you about that in a bit, but the registry, of course, includes a fancy front end that you can open up on your web browser and a back end that actually interfaces with the registry. Uh, the goal of the Nanda registry is to serve as a centralized discovery management hub within this decentralized web of agents. And it's specifically designed from with this Nanda protocol in mind, bottom up. Its purpose is to facilitate seamless indexing of all the hosted Nanda servers, clients, and nodes that exist out there. The registry will facilitate a lot of things that are enabled by the Nanda protocol, including aspects such as discovery, verification, uh, understanding of capabilities of MCP and Nanda servers that are hosted out there, as well as registration onto the Nanda registry for any server out there in the world. It also has cool stuff such as I mentioned, reputation and many, many more things. So with that being said, maybe I can hand over to Abhishek to give a very quick
There are a
demo.
couple of, I think there's some questions if you want to take.
Okay,
Your son, do you have a question?
I don't think they can talk, so we'll have to enable them to talk.
Yeah, your son, if you can just,
Yeah, go for it, Yosin.
you can type your question or.
Yeah, if you have a question, type in the chat, raise your hands in the chat.
Because the question here, Pradyumna, would be, what does it mean for the developers? What does it mean for the startups to use this?
Yeah, so we'll concretely tell you how to use this and how to get onboarded in the quickest way possible just shortly. But what it means for you is, as we mentioned earlier, what this is building towards is this Internet of Agents, where we hope that as we move forward, we are moving towards an ecosystem of right now several thousands, but very soon millions of agents that are transacting, looking for services, uh, trying to find tools to do things, and so on and so forth. So you can be one of the first folks to join this Nanda registry host your services very, very easily at no cost to you, really. So no downside for you, but really you can host yourself on an Nanda registry and make yourself available and visible to all of these agents that are looking for transactions. And also, if you're one of the first to be part of the registry, you can actually also be part of guiding how this registry develops, how sort of this open source protocol develops, what features are added to it that are maybe centered towards your requirements. I don't know if you wanted to add something as well, Ramesh, to that.
No, that's great. I think so. Ability to do instant deploy, ability to discover, create discoverability of your startup and your project, and third is to be a pioneer, so you understand how this is working with the first mover advantage. All right, I'll hand it over to Abhishek.
Thank you, Ramesh.
You can actually also very quickly, there's a question in the chat. I don't
Pradyumna got
Yes,
muted.
sir. There's a question in the chat about discovery and coupons. I don't know if you are completely able to answer it, but I don't know if you want to say something about it.
Yeah, maybe I can show, I mean, you covered them in the slides, but maybe I'll go to the GitHub and show people actually the fields we have modified and how we are adding more capabilities. How about that?
And if Pradyumna, if you can post the link to the GitHub so people can follow it along instead of looking at the screen.
Okay, so Pradyumna mentioned three things, right? Registry, we are building a host, and also our this whole protocol, which is how a registry can then connect with hosts, clients, servers. So some of them we are going to cover today. Some of them we are going to show how we are approaching it and how you'll be able to use it. And then finally, we will jump to the actual instantiation, like where you can try out some of these things. So with that, yes, so we have this registry. And as Pradyumna was mentioning, the purpose of the registry is to enable discovery, is to allow these agents or tools to have some notion of identity. And once you have this notion of identity tied to these tools and agents, then you can connect them and also track their usage and so on. So for now, I'm gonna quickly give you just a flavor of what's the interface and how you can actually use these APIs. Also, you can go to nanda-registry.com and you can see the API spec yourself if you go to API docs. And if you want to hit the APIs themselves, you can also, again, use one of these services or directly hit API/v1 server, for example. So I think the overall architecture here is we have some notion of analytics that is allowing people to track how these agents are evolving. Lots of authorization because in order to register the server, you need to be able to have some access API key, or as we will show later, you can use our front end to actually enter and create a register a server. Discovery. So the purpose of the registry is to just show that yes, discovery is possible using it, but we believe developers, startups here sitting in the call can actually build much more sophisticated discovery services by taking inspiration from how we are using Nanda and making discovery possible in a very simple manner. So think of this as a proof of concept. And servers. So this is the most important API as of now, because when you think of something like DNS, this is the only thing that DNS supports, right? Which is you can query available resources. In that case, it's domain names and other things as well, like TXT records. And here for us, it's information about these MCP servers and so on. And because of the Swagger UI, we can actually try it out. And if we run it, right now there's only one server registered. It's my calculator server. But hopefully today, a lot of you guys will also register your servers and we will be able to see all of them here. And again, so as I was talking about the DNS idea, right? So once you're able to make some entry in the registry, the next question is then how do we take care of verification, certification, things that Pradyumna was mentioning. So for verification, essentially we are looking at verifying ownership of this server. So imagine I go to the registry and claim that I am the owner of MCP or sorry, NANDA server google.com. And then the question is, of course, anyone can claim that. How can we verify it? So we have inbuilt mechanisms, and hopefully I'll get some time to show that also, that how we can verify this capability. And this allows people to interact with maybe only the verified servers, just like how in social media we can see a blue tick of verifiability. And then many of you developers sitting in the call must be thinking, okay, how can we subscribe to this registry? Like whenever a change happens, we want to be able to update our local registry or some search engine that is building upon top of this registry. So that's where webhooks come in. So we have a supporter for this webhooks that allow you to essentially subscribe and then look at the events. So that's a quick intro to the registry. And as you can see, it's a REST API server, nothing fancy, just allows you to query API endpoints. But also to show you how this system would actually work, we have built this front end that Pradyumna mentioned, through which you can interact with the registry. So let's see. I'm already logged in, but if I was not, then I will have to create an account because again, for ensuring verifiability, we'll have to go through this process. But I can register a server. I can provide some quick details. So like what's the name, the unique identifier, which we are calling as slug here in this context, description, and the most important field in this context is the URL. And as Pradyumna and Ramesh mentioned, we are building on top of MCP, so we are backward compatible. So if you have built this SSE-based MCP server, then you can enter the URL, and it will be able to connect, and other parties can discover it also. So to just give an example, we have this one server that I registered, and this server is actually hosted on my AWS. And very late in the tutorial or the steps after we discuss this, I will also show how to host your own servers on AWS. But just to give an example, here's a calculator server. And sorry, I can't see my screen. Oh, yeah. So I have registered this calculator server through this interface. And if I go to my, so this is a server I'm actually building right now. And if I were to, and just to confirm, you guys can see my screen, right?
Yes, we can see VS Code.
Perfect. So if I were to start this backend code that I'm writing just to create new servers, it automatically, as you can see, registered servers Abhi's calculator with two tools. And those two very sophisticated tools are addition and multiplication. But they give you a sense of that what's possible with tooling and those things. So that's an example where I registered it here, and then someone else is able to discover it on their own platform. So now let me quickly give you a sense of, also feel free to type questions if there is any clarifying questions here on how registry is working, how this interface is working. But let's say we create another server, let's call it weather server. And sorry, real quickly. So as you can see, there are some fields that are optional, but many of them are not. So we will have to, and again, how to make these servers, we will be teaching you soon. Just want to verify this server works. It does. So I will come back here, give the URL, and documentation. So another thing that we will be talking about is we are creating a catalog of servers we support. And if you want to have your server listed here on the NANDA servers GitHub repository, you can follow the tutorial, which we are going to do soon, and make a pull request. So here's the documentation. Organization, I'm already registered as MIT. It's a weather tool service. And we can maybe say, here's a tag. Tags are useful for discovery. And let's see if I can find some screenshot. Okay, somehow I ended up using the same. And you can declare capabilities, which again would be useful for discovery. You can specify what's the pricing model, what are the rate limits, but these are optional fields, so I'm going to skip them. And then we can verify and then submit. And I'm going to talk more about verification soon. But the server is registered, and if I were to go to, not dashboard, Explorer. So Explorer is visible to everyone. I believe if you go there, you will probably also be able to see. So weather server is registered. And remember the example I was giving you, right? Which is I can register multiple tools. So let's see if my server is correctly running, it should be able to register tool. And yes, it did. So it registered 2 servers when I started my service. One is weather server, another is Abhi's calculator server. So just to give context, you can imagine each company building their own services like host, clients, and so on. And by connecting to this registry, they can discover them as soon as a person is providing these servers. And note that nowhere I gave information about the tools, what I support. But because of the MCP URL, which I'm giving, and the protocol we are following using the NANDA protocol, it's actually able to figure out what tools are available. And I'm quickly going to show you one important detail, which we believe is going to, 1 second, not here. Okay, it looks like I got logged out. Can I log in? Okay. Yes. For a moment, I thought demo is not going to work, but it did. Anyway, so weather server I registered right now. Now, in principle, I can give anyone's URL, right? How do I actually ensure that this is indeed my server, which I've registered? And the way we solve this problem is through 3 layers of verification, and you can choose one of them. One is you can take your DNS TXT record, add this token that was generated by the registry, put it in your server or the TXT record, and then press verification and it will get verified. Of course, I have not, so it won't get verified right now. But those are the 3 modes we perform verification. And with that, yeah, so that completes our registry, like the API spec, which we are building as part of NANDA, but then also a front end on how you can interact with NANDA registry. And then very soon we'll be having tutorials. You guys will be building your MCP servers, and hopefully we can host all of them here today and actually also use it. So with that, is there anything else I should talk about, or no?
I just want to say huge congratulations. This is tremendously valuable to all the developers. And it's just exciting to see how people are going to get this going.
Actually, yes. Since you mentioned developers, let me quickly give a glimpse of what we have been doing on the side of making life easy for developers. So building on top of MCP, and we are inspired by how it's an open protocol that as long as you follow, you can build things on top of it. So a few things that we have been introducing recently is there's a concept in MCP as well as NANDA of request. So whenever you are going to another server or client saying, hey, I do want some information from you. It could be knowledge, it could be some tool and so on. So weather is an example of tool. Request is sent, but in NANDA, what we've introduced is this coupon. So what coupon does is it's basically passing on a certificate, and using this certificate, and if you're familiar with HTTPS, we are building on X.509 infrastructure. It can basically sign these coupons by the identity of owners. So imagine I talk to the weather server. Weather server would like to know that, yes, I talked to them so that they can advertise to everyone else that, hey, I'm getting traffic. So now by using this NANDA protocol and using this notion of coupon, they can get the signature. These are cryptographically verifiable, again, using X.509, and hence can be used for verifying that, yes, I'm indeed getting traffic and I'm not making it up. And we have made several other modifications here just to support things that I was showing, like registry, for example. So there's a new type now here, which you can use for registering servers. And we are actively building SDK also that actually supports all these types. And using them, you can quickly directly connect to the registry, make one line change to your code, existing MCP code to register it to our registry. So yeah, I think this is more on the side of developers, people who are going to be building these servers, tools, and so on. And how do we make their life easier so that they can become part of this ecosystem with very few lines of code? So yeah, with that, Pradyumna or Mesh, do you guys want to take over?
Awesome. Thanks so much, Abhishek. Uh, Great. So let me very quickly share my screen again. I might be coming back to you soon, though, Abhishek, for the demo of the front end, but let me set that up very quickly.
Let's see if there are any questions, comments in the meantime.
Yeah, in the meantime, there seems to be some comments. There seem to be a lot of comments. So as I set up, maybe y'all can take some questions.
So one question is MCP nexus related to Nanda. Yes, that's a term we were using before, and now we are Nexus is part of Nanda, but overall, yes, it's the whole Nanda ecosystem where MCP Nexus is part of.
Great. Any other questions?
Regarding discovery, is it only related to tag, title, description? So yes, as I was telling, for discovery, the purpose of registry is to support very simple queries. But our hope is that many of you guys will build interesting search engine recommendation engines by building a lot of sophisticated algorithms.
Awesome. Let me very quickly share my screen again. Set up the next bit. Oh, I am sharing the wrong thing with you. Great. So Abhishek gave us an amazing demo of the Nanda registry and all the capabilities of the Nanda registry. So let's talk about the third aspect of Nanda. So just to very quickly summarize, we talked to you about the Nanda protocol, which is the schema and which enables a lot of the facilities that Nanda is offering. So of course, agent to agent communication, which is just a starting point, but so much more, such as certification, coupons, and building on top of that aspects such as reputation and so much more. So we talked about the protocol, we talked about the registry, which is sort of the discoverability hub of this internet of agents. As you build your Nanda servers, your MCP servers, and your clients and hosts, uh, it'll all come onto this registry and be visible to everyone else on this internet of agents. And now to kickstart or to bootstrap this, we've also gone ahead and built the first sort of Nanda host, which is this interface that you can use to interact the back end of this Nanda host is of course an LLM, but this is integrated within the Nanda protocol. So it's able to access the Nanda registry. It's able to talk to MCP servers, Nanda servers that are on the registry and do some cool tasks on that. So I'll again hand it back to Abhishek to just very quickly run you through what this Nanda host entails and what it consists of almost. You're muted, Abhishek.
Sorry. couldn't find the mic icon somehow. Okay, so just to contextualize what host means in this whole ecosystem is this, if you have used something like Cloud Desktop or even Cloud.ai or Cursor, these softwares are called hosts. And the purpose of host is to enable you to connect with LLM that is gonna interact with the client, and the client is the piece of code that is talking to the server. So since I showed you guys already that we added weather server and calculator server, we actually went ahead and again, we will show how to add your own new servers. But you can go to this website, and again, I'm guessing Pradyumna, you can send the link so that people can play with it. And once you build your own servers, you have to provide basically three fields: server ID, name, and the SSE URL through which the communication between the client and the server will be established. Once you have done that and you have included your API keys, I'm not going to show you because otherwise my credits will get burned. Then you will be able to talk to these LLMs, but also be able to use the tools. So for example, I already sent one query because I wanted to verify it's actually using it. So can you get me weather alerts for Massachusetts? And to do that, behind the scenes, the LLM is selecting this tool called Weather Service, sending it data, using retrieving the results, and then contextualizing it to give the result to me. And as you can see, I get this real-time results. Maybe we can also try to get some forecasts. And one disclaimer is sometimes these LLMs are not the best LLMs to use the tool. So we'll see if it's actually able to use it. So I'm gonna ask for some weather forecast, and hopefully it's able to query the tool and get the information from the tool about weather forecast and then display it to me in natural language. All right. The assistant seems to be thinking quite a bit. That is usually a good sign, which means it's talking to tools. But generally, the interaction is you give it a task, getting weather alerts, or in this case, weather forecast, and it will provide you the answer. Looks like in this case, it's not. Let's see. Is it busy? Not.
Maybe a lot of folks have logged into the page because the link is in the chat.
Oh, okay.
Also, someone said in the chat that Claude is facing capacity constraints. Maybe that's it.
Yeah, so that's what happens usually. And also, the model is not the best model, so sometimes it will run out of these things. But let's see if I add a tool. Let's see. Oh, not this one. So yeah, my API key is connected. So yes, as you can see, it is able to find that it has access to these two tools. And let's see if we ask a question to use this tool, will it use it or not? There you go. So now we get some forecast. And once again, the way it's working, it's using one of these tools, in this case, get forecast. Since I gave Boston in my query, it converts it to latitude, longitude coordinates. And then it's calling this tool to basically give me the answer here. Now, the good thing is, as you guys saw, I didn't have to do much. And what I mean by that is all you have to do is either provide your server information here, or as soon we will show, or probably later we will show, that we can also pull this information from the registry. But in both cases, all I have to give is the URL of my server, and it talks to it remotely. And if you want to do similar, let's say, capability with Cloud Desktop, then you have to modify the config file. And if some of you have horrors from the last hackathon where you had to install UV, run Python, open terminal, type some commands, you don't have to do all of this here. So that's one advantage. And then, as we also mentioned during the registry, that this can be even more advanced, where just based on your query, the LLM will do the discovery, search, find the right tools, and use it without you having to even enter the URLs. But today we want to make sure that you can also run your servers here and play with them by talking to these LLMs. So we will show you how to build the server and connect it with the host so that you can talk to it.
Great. Thanks so much, Abhishek. I think this is so impressive, and I just want to actually take a second to contextualize this for the folks on the call again. So, sorry for the swapping screen shares, but let's go back. Where's my slide? Let's go back to the slide over here and contextualize what you've just seen Abhishek demonstrate. Of course, it was using a weather service API, and we did that intentionally because those of you who attended our hackathon on Sunday, the first task was you actually did try to build a weather service API, and it was challenging for many, many different reasons as part of connecting it to your cloud desktop via MCP and all that kind of stuff. So we thought that would be the best way to demonstrate the difference over here to you. So as part of the hackathon that a lot of you attended on Sunday, you would have used Cloud Desktop. You would have, as Abhishek was saying, done UV, installed some packages, copied this code from Python already, then opened up this config file for Cloud Desktop and link it manually so that this file that runs locally on your system is visible to Cloud Desktop, and only then maybe it may work on your system. But in most cases, it doesn't. So now what you just saw is the second row here, which is we have a host that's online on the browser. You don't need a cloud desktop. You go to a URL on the browser and the host is available to you. All you do is put in your API key, and this host is able to talk to this registry of sort of servers, clients, nodes, whatever you'd like to call it, that work on a NANDA protocol. Of course, right now there are only those that we've populated, but hopefully at the end of this hackathon and at the end of this week, every single one of the 73 of you on this call would have 73 Nanda servers on that registry, and that would make this ecosystem incredible. So really, this host is able to see all these servers, find them, and interact with them without you actually having to go into this config file, run something locally. So we've enabled hosting these servers remotely wherever in the world, which is the first step towards this decentralized landscape of AI agents. Of course, what we demonstrated today was a tool, the weather API. And again, specifically because we want to contextualize it against what we did on Sunday. But keep track with us, stay tuned, and we are building towards April 15th, where we'll be demonstrating a full-fledged agent-to-agent interaction that taps into all these aspects of the Nanda, sort of Nanda ecosystem. So let me pause over here. I would imagine there should be a bunch of questions right now, and I can see some. So let's see. Thanks, Jamie. Appreciate the Appreciate that. Okay, Jared asked a question. I think Ayush already answered it, maybe.
There's
Great.
a question in the Q&A box. There's a question.
I can't see the Q&A box because I'm sharing my
Let
screen.
me read it. Above the login aspect and verification meant to deter malicious agents, are there other built-in checks? So the way malicious agent is going to be solved with the help of Nanda is through the notion of reputation. So as we were showing you that the registry is enabling this notion of identity, and hence once you can tie identity with these agents and so on, you can now keep track of some kind of who's doing what. That's one part. And then the way I think we did not show those slides today, but the way we have been characterizing, there are two kinds of evaluation. One is extrinsic, one is intrinsic. Extrinsic is more, as we were saying, like track reputation. Intrinsic is evaluate capabilities. So when you are registering the server on registry, you declare some capabilities, and those capabilities then can be evaluated through some standard benchmarking. So overall, the answer is that Nanda is enabling these, let's say, bits and pieces through which you can build checks for malicious agent and create lots of interesting services, startups, and so on. Is there a concept of time slots expiry? Not sure in which context that question is. So,
Maybe clarified further in the chat.
mhm. Right. So how long the agent can be used, I guess, is the question. So there is this notion of establishing connection between the server and client, and that session is specific to that session duration is deciding basically how long it can be used. If the agent owner, companion, whatever you want to call them, wants to take them down, it can be brought down. So it's more like a connection-based architecture.
There was a question earlier on what do you think about moving existing open source MCP servers redeployed on Nanda?
Yeah, some of them have been designed in a way that you have to run with this protocol called Studio. I think a good thing about this MCP ecosystem is that there's some interoperability. So we can take existing Studio protocol servers, convert them into SSE pretty easily. And if folks want to try today, we can actually do it. Like you can take an existing MCP server, run it with SSE, host it. As soon as you host it, it becomes compatible with the registry and also the host application we were showing, like where I added the weather server. So maybe that's something we can do as part of today's exercise as well.
So
Perfect.
is there a reason to upgrade an MCP server Nanda, or is straightforward backward compatible? I guess that's the question.
So it's almost backward compatible. It's just that in order to have a remote server, we need to support a remote connection protocol. And hence, you need to use only that part of MCP that is supporting remote connection, which is SSE.
Mhm. And what's the benefit of using SSE versus anything else?
Remote connection.
Yeah, I think that you might want to emphasize that. That's great.
Okay. Let's keep moving forward, and I'm sure folks can reply on the chat to other questions. I think there are a couple of questions on do we require folks to have API keys? We don't. It only depends on it truly depends on the person building the MCP or the Nanda server. If they want an API key, great. If they don't, it's not required. And there are a few more that folks we can reply, our team will reply in the chat, but I will continue to the next step. So let me again share my screen now. So now we come to the exciting part. I mean, all of this was the exciting part, but now we come to the hands-on part of the call for you guys, which is how do you onboard onto Nanda? How can you build your first MCP server right now, but very soon the Nanda server, and onboard that onto our Nanda registry? So we wanted to make this process as seamless as possible for you. So we've gone ahead and built a set of documentations that you can follow directly to facilitate this, but we'll not stop there. We'll actually run you through that right now today. So I'm going to be doing that right now. Feel free to stop me in the chat if you have questions, if you missed any step. And of course, I'll request my co-panelist also to pause me if I'm going too fast or if something I said does not make sense, which is possible. So first thing, uh, we have already shared this link in the chat with you guys earlier, but this is the repo to go to get instructions on how to build your MCP servers and add it onto the Nanda repository, Nanda registry. So it's a very straightforward process. I'll read through this first and I'll show you exactly how to do it. And I'll give you also some tips to speed it up. Uh, so the goal over here is, as you all know, MCP is a service that will wrap around any sort of action that you want to be accessible by agents. So for example, if you have a tool that is callable by an API service, if you have a database that you want that is callable by an API service, in fact, something even simpler, if you have just a CSV file with, let's say, an inventory of something, which I'll show later today, and you want that to be callable by an API service or by an agent, then all you do is wrap an MCP server around it. And then in our case, host it on the Nanda registry. And then this will be visible to the Nanda host and any other hosts or any other clients or nodes that join the Nanda service. So initial steps that you have to do, very easy. Install some dependencies, MCP dependencies, and basically create some kind of virtual environment. You can use a Python virtual environment. In my case, I used an Anaconda virtual environment. Or if there's some third thing that you want to do, you can do that as well. But just create a virtual environment, install the necessary packages that are required for you. And we've mentioned those packages over here as well. And you are all set to go. Any questions until here?
Do you wanna do like a walkthrough where people are running these commands, or do you wanna do first one short intro and then have people do it separately?
So actually, one shot, I think I'll go through everything,
Okay. Mm-hmm.
just so people have the bigger context, and we can have people walking through it as well. I just want to slowly go through them, the steps, so that people can see it. Great. So assuming you are able to install the dependencies, do note that the Python version is very important. So you do have to be 3.9 plus. Uh, yeah. Do note that you have to be 3.9 plus. I am running on 3.10. So if it's not working for you, likely it's your Python version. So keep that in mind. Great. So now we've also given you the basic server structure over here. So for any MCP server that you want to build, you just create a server.py file in a new directory that you've created. And to that, you add a bunch of this code, which is taking care of the sort of communication protocol using SSE, as well as some functionality that's provided right now within the MCP SDK uh, to set up the boilerplate code. This is standard for everyone. All you have to do is define your custom tools that you want your MCP server to support. So for example, I will give you an example later where I'm doing something very simple. I have a CSV file that I want my MCP server to support two functions from. Get sort of items that are in the inventory and get details about a specific item. And for that, I would have defined my specific tool. So all you have to do over here is define functions like these. You can just copy paste this function and restructure, of course, rename it and restructure it inside to match your requirement. So you can put your sort of API endpoint, your API URL, uh, give keys if you need to, don't give keys if you don't need to. This can be as simple or as complicated as you need it to be. And I'll show you something very simple. Once you're done with adding whatever you need to, all you can do is run your Python server locally. And then if it runs correctly without any errors, then that tells you that your server is hosted correctly at your current local host. Uh, to give you an even sort of simpler experience, just to try out something, Maria and Abhishek have gone ahead and given you boilerplate code for a simple weather API. We stay on the theme of weather today again, but for a simple weather API that does everything that we mentioned earlier. The boilerplate code plus the tools have been defined for this particular weather API. So if you're feeling lazy and just want to try out the weather API to start out with, you just copy this code, paste it in the server.py file, and run it. And finally, we provide, once all this is running, we provide a debugging tool for you, which actually MCP provides, which is called the MCP inspector, which you can use to figure out if your functionality is working correctly. So that was a very quick high-level overview. Now I'm going to go in detail through various steps to show how these things look, what you need to do, so on and so forth. But I'll pause here in case any questions. But I'm going to be running through this once again to show you exactly how this works. Great. I can't see any questions in chat.
Maybe just for you to emphasize, like what parts people will have to do if, let's say, instead of weather, they're doing something else. Maybe.
Yeah. So the most important aspects are the tools that they have to specify. So re-specify your tool implementation. This, as I mentioned, you can add as many tools as you want, but this can be as complex or as simple as required. If you need to do some kind of authentication, you can do all that kind of stuff. But if you do not need to, not necessary. And yeah, if you can change the name of your MCP server over here. That's about it. And as I go through this, I'll also give you an even simpler way to make this change, doing only vibe coding if you do not want to even get into this. And I did it with vibe coding in 15 minutes. So I'm sure everyone else on the call here can do it in 5. Okay, with that being said, let me go on to my sort of demo part over here, as I call it. Sorry, lots of tabs open. Okay, documents, MCP demos. Great. So I'm working. I had Claude generate for me.
Can I pause you? There is some question on, do we have to run this code? I guess people are asking which part of code they need to run, I guess.
Great. Okay, I can't see the question.
Oh,
Chat.
yeah, in the chat.
Oh, okay. So wait, let me show you. So the part of code that you have to run. So as you start out, maybe the best way for you to start out is to take this weather API, right? This is a full-fledged code and start with this. And all you need to do maybe is define your own tools. So the code that you actually need to run, so this weather API code is fully functional, but if you are building your own custom thing, you start with this code, which does boilerplate stuff, change the name of your server, that's it, implement your tools, however you need to implement them, maybe do something that does not require API authentication for now, which is where this code is required. And then just put it in and see how it works for now. But let me also go through the demo that I am about to show, and hopefully that also answers some other questions. But anyways, where is this? Yeah, so I had Claude generate for me a very simple CSV file, an inventory CSV file, right? That has all of these kind of fields. So item name, category, uh, quantity, price, blah, blah. Claude just generated a simple file out of this. So now what I want to do is I want to build an MCP server that is able to look into the CSV file and offer me two functionalities. The first is get a list of all the items in this inventory. And the second is to find all the attributes that associate with one particular item. That's all I want my tools to be. Given that, what I would do is what I have done over here. First of all, in terms of our instructions, of course, is you would go ahead and install on the dependencies, create a virtual environment, ensure that your Python version is correct, and you would be good to go there. Now that you have that, I'll show you my code and what has been changed in my code. I have done everything the same. I have just changed the name of the MCP. Instead of an API key, I have a CSV file that I'm working with. So I just put a CSV path over here. And then I have created two functions. Get item info, which all it does, I've created three functions, sorry, I lied. One is a load inventory function, which the only thing it does is load my CSV file in a usable structure. So loads my CSV file from the address I have given in this particular structure. The second thing that I do is define a get items function. All that this is doing within boilerplate code, some of this is just error handling, but all that this is doing is once it loads the inventory, it will just find the particular key name, which is item name, and find out all the items within that column in the CSV file and return that. The second function that I've defined is get item info, which is given a particular item like a chair, get all the information for it. Again, this works in the same way. Load the CSV file, do some error handling, all that kind of stuff. But then all you do is just find that particular keyword uh, over here and then just return that. So yeah, you can manually do this, but if you want to do this much faster, all I did this through vibe coding basically. So all I did with Claude is I gave it the CSV, I gave it the weather API server.py file that has been provided in the repo already to you, and I just told it to do this. I said that this is an MCP server code for a weather API. All I want you to do is take this code, modify to create an MCP server that reads my inventory.csv file and does two things on it. Get items, which gets a list of all the item names that are present in the inventory, and get item info. It gives a list of all the attributes for that particular item name. And this is a very simple task. Claude does it, gives you the server.py file. You can download it and you can store it in the specific directory. In my case, my server.py file and my inventory.csv file are in the same directory so that I can use them together. And now there are two things that you can do quickly. Great. First, once you have defined your server.py file, you've created your virtual environment. Here I've created a virtual environment for myself, gone to the specific directory. I first just run the server. And as soon as I see that my server is running, this is great. The server is now running on SSE. Uh, so that just means the code that you've written has, at least before the API calls, it doesn't have any errors. It's all working reasonably well. So that's good. That means you've navigated all this bit. The second step before you know that your server is ready to deploy is use this very cool tool by MCP known as Model Context Protocol Inspector. So what you can do, so over here we've given instructions to do this in command line, but I'm going to show that you can do it using a UI as well, which is even easier. So open a separate tab. You can be on any directory, just be in the same environment and run the command that we've told you to run, which is npx model context protocol inspector. What this inspector gives you is a UI or some way to tap into those MCP functions that you've defined and see that they are performing correctly. So once you run MCP inspector, it gives you a URL over here. You can follow the instructions on the repo, which gives you command line instructions, but I'll do it using the UI. So you have a UI over here, which is very cool. What you can do, just select your transport type to SSE, specify the URL. If you use our code, it'll always be at this port on your URL and press connect. If you've done everything correctly, the this tool should be able to easily connect with your MCP server that's now running. Then you can go to the tools tab over here and click on list tools, and it will give you a list of all the tools that you've defined as part of your MCP server code. So now you can use this to test out how these tools work. So for example, let's say I click get item and I run the tool. It's tapping into my MCP server, running the tool as it would if it was being tapped into via the NANDA registry by the NANDA host, and it returns it in certain format. So it's given me an itemized list saying available items in the inventory are this office chair, desk lamp, printing paper, blah, 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 all this cool stuff. I can also test out the get item info. For this, I have to provide an item name input. So let's say I want to do desk lamp LED and I run the tool. It'll give me all the information for that particular desk lamp. So it gives me the item ID, it gives me the category, unit price, all that cool stuff. So once I test this out, or once you test it out using this inspector, once you test out that your function is behaving as you expect it to behave, you're good to go. Your MCP server is running correctly, your server.py file is running correctly, and you have everything that you need to have a working MCP server.